Hockey Inside Out, brought to you by Videotron.
Welcome to the HIO Show. I'm joined today by a very dapper-looking Mike Boone and Jack Todd. Before this season started, I don't know how many people thought the Canadiens would advance to the Eastern Conference Final, and I don't really know how many people thought they would beat the Boston Bruins, but I know at least one person who did. Jack, we know you're taking the Canadiens to win this series against the Bruins in 7 games.
Yeah, and putting exactly this much money on it.
Mike, what's your take? Who's going to win this series?
I'm going with Boston. I think Boston's going to win the series in 6 games, and it could be 5. I'm at the risk of having my house vandalized. I just think they're the better team. I think the President's Trophy means something. It's not like the old days when teams would play, you know, the Hartford Artichokes 8 times a year. It's a competitive league. If you can amass the most teams in the league, I think you're the best team in the league. I think you're the best team in the league. I think you're the best team in the league.
Mike, the Eastern Conference Final, you could make an argument that Marc Bergevin is the first star of the playoffs for the Canadiens so far.
I'd have to say so. The rebuild is way ahead of schedule. And he really, when you think about it, he hasn't set too many feet wrong. Mm-hmm. You know, people during the season knocked the Briere signing. Well, it's the playoffs. It's to any time. Mm-hmm. The acquisitions of Dale Weiss and Mike Weaver, and some of the off-ice acquisitions. You know, Bergevin is not afraid of having strong people in his department. So you get a Rick Dudley, mm-hmm. you know, and
Scott Mellanby.
Scott Mellanby. Evidently a very strong pro scouting department, which was a weakness under Pierre Gauthier. Mm-hmm. And yeah, he's done a heck of a job.
What I said that they had the bricks. When you look at this team, the really key players were in place when Bergevin came in. Mm-hmm. Subban, Price, Pacioretty, these people. But what he's been able to do is like a mason starting to build a wall. He's provided the cement, the glue that holds all this together. These guys like Weiss and Weaver, Briere, mm-hmm. you know, even I know everybody knocked him all season, but Murray was useful at certain times. Yeah. And Vanek, especially during the regular season, to have that extra kick of offense was very important. And I don't think that Bergevin has made a significant mistake today.
He's added character to the team.
Yeah.
Now, did the Bruins beat themselves, Mike, or did the Habs beat the Bruins?
I think it was a little bit of both. You know, everybody said before the series that the mantra was, don't poke the bear, mm-hmm. don't poke the bear. Yeah. You know? They didn't poke the bear, they sodomized the bear. As we speak, the bear is in the woods rubbing his sore behind against a tree. You know, their mystique was totally demystified in this series. And President's Trophy or not, I think the Canadiens beat them fairly thoroughly and really got into their heads. Yeah. Really got into their heads.
And did it just by playing hockey.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
The Bruins, you could see the Bruins wanting to kill them all the time. They were never quite able to catch up. And one team was focused on winning hockey games and the other was focused on something else. And in the end, they ended up actually making it look fairly easy. I said they came very close to a sweep. A 5-minute period in Game 2 and 1 regulation goal in Game 4, and they had a sweep. Mm-hmm. So, and to beat a team as good as Boston in 2 elimination games by a combined score of 7-1, you may never see that again.
Now, the Sean Thornton water bottle incident, was that the turning point in the series?
I don't know. You know, did it motivate PK to be even better? PK, you know, is pumped all the time, but it was a manifestation of disrespect, and I gather disrespect was a popular word in the Canadiens' mm-hmm. room last night. They didn't feel respected when the series began, and the disrespect extended right into the handshake line.
Well, that's right, with Lucic saying he's going to effing kill Dale Weiss next season, which makes me wonder, why didn't he do it in Game 7? You know, it's an elimination game. Why didn't he take care of that right then?
Loud and clear, Milan Lucic, you are an idiot. Well, there's no other way to say it. And the worst part is, you tried to hurt the Canadiens and you ended up hurting the Bruins. You could see the guy sitting on the bench seething, and he wasn't thinking, how do I win this hockey game? It was, how do I catch up with Subban or Emelin and take their heads off?
What's the over-under on days until he's arrested in Vancouver for disorderly this summer?
I mean, they were the big bad Bruins. Now they're almost like the big dumb Bruins. I mean, Brad Marchand with that snow shower on Carey Price. He didn't score a goal the whole playoffs. What are they thinking? You're saying it's like they're more want to get the Canadiens than they actually want to score goals, it seemed like almost.
Yeah, I wonder about Marchand's future with the team. You know, the punch in Plekanec's head on the face-off. It wasn't penalized, but Plekanec just laughed at him. I mean, the guy he's not without talent, Marchand, but he's becoming a bit of a joke. There's a fine line between being a needler and being a total jerk.
And Michel Therrien out-coached Claude Julien in the series.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. He schooled him. Yeah.
He schooled him. You know, you have Carey Price. It wasn't up for the Vezina Trophy, but he sure outplayed Tuukka Rask in that series. PK Subban's not up for the Norris Trophy, but he outplayed Zdeno Chara. It was everything the Canadians seemed to do worked.
Yeah, they were full value for this win. I've been around this beat for 20 years now, and the good Canadians teams that I've covered that had a bit of playoff success, it's been usually built on a really hot goalie and 2 or 3 guys doing something. You know, we had it with Halak, we had it with Jose Theodore. This is a good team. I think they might not quite be there, but they're right on the cusp of doing what they've been trying to do for the last 2 decades, which is get in that elite set of teams that have a shot every year. They're very close to that right now.
Zdeno Chara looked slow and old. You wonder what the future is with him in Boston now, Mike, going forward.
You know, he's 37 years old. He's played some very hard minutes over the years. I wonder how much longer he can go, because he did not look good in the series. He looked slow. He looked tentative. How often did he use that booming slap shot?
Yeah.
Very, very seldom. I read or heard somewhere that Bourneval gave him a hand slash early on in the series. That might have affected things. But he was not Chara.
No. His face, when you looked at him last night, he just looked flat exhausted.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen a player look as beaten down as he looked. He was falling for no reason. He was just whooped, and to have that last puck go in off his skate, the most painful thing.
Face it, the Bruins is not exactly a Brad Pitt team to begin with. But, to see them like that, what a pleasure.
You wrote, Jack, also, they're almost like the Flying Frenchmen again, except there's, people from all different countries around. I mean, Michael Bourneval is the Flying Frenchman now. He looks, I said last night, he looks like the new Roadrunner almost, but it's a fun team to watch.
A lot of speed, a great entertaining players. Subban's probably the most entertaining player in the league, and a lot bigger and grittier than people give them credit for. Not Boston big, but there are a lot of tough guys. You saw so many times last night. They just don't back down. Desharnais doesn't back down. Gallagher will stand right there with his nose in Chara's chest and insult the biggest, toughest guy in the league with a smile on his face. I love it. Just love this.
David Desharnais, for that matter, played a physical series. Maybe went a little bit unnoticed because the line did not shine, but he played tough on every shift.
Made a huge defensive play last night.
Yes.
Briere was terrific.
And he was complimented by the mayor on Twitter last night, too.
We'll
be back after a short break, and we'll look ahead to the Rangers. Welcome back to the HIO show. Well, Claude Julien, a former Habs coach, now gone. Bring on the next one, Alain Vigneault with the Rangers. Jack, who wins this series?
Line them up and shoot them down, since obviously I'm the one on this panel who knows who's going to win.
But didn't put any money on
of course not. I never do anything smart like that. I'm going to go with the Montreal Canadiens over the Rangers in 6 games.
Mike?
I have a matchless record for being wrong. If I bet sports, I'd be living in a cardboard box in the Wellington Tunnel. So I will call the Rangers in 7.
I'm going to say Canadians in 6. I think that they're going to feed off of that, the victory over the Bruins. One of the key players for the Rangers in this series is Ryan McDonagh, Jack, who has an obvious Canadians connection going back to the Scott Gomez trade. So painful, so painful. You look at a lot of these guys, the pillars of this team, they came in during the Gainey era. But that one colossal mistake, the Scott Gomez trade, that bad enough that it brought in Gomez and all the problems he caused, but losing McDonagh. If this team had McDonagh now, with Beaulieu, with Subban, with Emelin, I think you might have the best defense in the league.
Shades of the big 3.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
And you got 2 guys there, McDonagh and Subban, who could both end up in the Hall of Fame, and they could be playing on the same defense as young defensemen. Terrific guy. Unfortunately, he's going to be wearing the wrong uniform in this series.
Well, I mentioned Nathan Beaulieu. I mean, here's a guy who hadn't played in about a month, thrown into a 21-year-old, thrown into a Game 6 situation. The thing that impressed me, Mike, he seems to have the confidence and a bit of the swagger that PK has. It's something you can't teach.
which was considered his problem. You heard whispers about an attitude situation when he got sent back down to Hamilton. Well, good on the kid. He thought he belonged in the National Hockey League, and evidently he does. Tremendous skater, good shot from the point, and as you were saying, Stu, absolutely confident. And he's here to stay, I would say.
I think he helped turn this series because, you know, they had been playing Murray. All of a sudden you go, complete flip to bowl you. And the Bruins are having to deal with an extra really speedy, classy offensive defenseman. And it seemed to get them back on their heels.
And it became evident as the series progressed that they weren't going to be gooned. They didn't necessarily need the physicality that Murray brings. So.
And as you're saying, we said here before in the show before, you know, PK Subban, the bigger the game, the better he plays. And Nathan Beaulieu might have that same thing in him. One of the players in this series of focus is really going to be on is Martin St. Louis with the Rangers. Mike, after his mother passing away and now coming back here, I think that'll be a main topic of conversation.
Oh, absolutely. He always plays well against the Canadians. He's a francophone player. He's going to be interviewed extensively on all the networks, and he's just great. I mean, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, and I've always liked him. I'm looking forward to seeing him play, no matter what happens in the series.
I think Hockey Night in Canada will have a lot of focus on him, Jack.
Oh yeah, the one thing you know they're not going to do is give any credit to the Canadians. If they sweep this series, it's going to be because Lundqvist didn't play well, Vigneault made mistakes, whatever. They will not credit the Canadians. So the best story on the Rangers is obviously St. Louis. Terrific little player. I had to deal with him a fair bit during that series when the Canadians were swept by Tampa Bay, when that team was on its way to a Stanley Cup. I got the vibe off him that I always think Maurice Richard must have given off. You know, the eyes, the intensity this guy plays with. So you've got all these really quality little players on the ice, Giunta, Gallagher, Briere, and St. Louis, the best of them all.
He works, he's got Brendan Gallagher's work ethic, or vice versa. Carey Price, the players were talking about in the second intermission of Game 7, actually got up and made a speech and told the guys just to enjoy the moment. Is this a sign of Carey Price maturing, Mike?
I think it's a sign that he's a Zen master. You know, between periods lectures usually include 110 F-bombs and guys breaking sticks against the wall. Carey Price gets up and says, "Enjoy the moment." I love it.
Well, Phil Jackson.
When they interviewed him after the game, it was like you just won a beer league game or something, Jack. He was so calm and just there's no,
You know, this is obviously the goalie he's most like is Ken Dryden, who beat the Bruins in 1971 on the way to a Stanley Cup. He's got that same kind of calm. I actually think he's a better goalie than Dryden was. Dryden didn't have to be that good. He just had to make a few key saves. But I think the ascension of Price is the biggest single story this year. There are a lot of good stories, but this guy has gone from where you had some doubts, and I've been crucified for criticizing him at times. Now he's the guy they always hoped he would be, and then some.
I keep waiting for him to lean on his stick like that. He looks so cool out there.
Give us the lean, Kerry.
And don't forget the Stefan Wade effect. Just look at Corey Crawford.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that.
Might be the best coaching job I've ever seen in the league.
He's a new goalie. He's coming out challenging shooters. He's not down on his knees all the time.
And to get it done in such a short time.
Yeah.
Well, you know, we talked about that earlier this season, the analogy with boxers that they go in the training and then they go to the ring and they lose it. Kerry goes into these games that, you know, this thing with 5 elimination games and he's given up 2 goals. He's put it into practice with amazing speed, and that is one great goalie coach.
Yeah, now Thomas Vanek grabbed all the headlines at the trade deadline deals, Mike, but Mike Weaver might be the best pickup of them all.
Certainly. What did he cost? A fifth round pick or something like that? I mean, he's basically playing for extra pucks. What's he making, $1 million or something? I'd like to see him stay. He's he's another Georges.
He is, and he's 30. I mean, he was out in the ice for the last 2 minutes of that game last night. After the game, the players were coming off the ice, and they were welcomed by Marc Bergevin, who was giving every player a hug. I don't think this is something you might have seen from Bob Gainey or the Ghost.
Yeah, the Ghost would have made him eat a vegan meal after. You know.
Well, Marc Bergevin in his electric blue sport jacket, they were probably scared he was going to try to sell them a condo in Florida. You know?
One of the things he's done, I mean, for years, Habs fans have said, this team isn't big enough. Jack, they've got some big guys who can skate now. Weiss was another pickup just before the trade deadline.
It's the kind of thing until you see them wheeling like they're wheeling like they wheeled in these 2 series so far. You don't quite realize that all of a sudden they've got a lot of big, fast forwards. René Bourque, Michael Bourneval, guys who come in on you with speed and have some skills. They're maybe not, they're not guys who are going to score 50 goals, but they're hard to defend. And
That's Pacioretty.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll finish off here. We'll go to the prediction guru. Will there be a Stanley Cup parade on Montreal this summer, Jack?
Oh boy. First, I'd want to see who's coming out of the West, but you know what? The way these guys are playing, if you can beat Boston, you can beat anybody in the league.
That's it for this week's show. We'll be back next week and Habs Rangers to talk about. See you then.